What are my top 10 movies of 2024 that I officially ranked? Let's find out in today's video.
I scream, you scream for movies, and that's the way we do it.
What is up, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. I screen, you scream for number 4 movies. I'm Daniel Scamalaji. In today's podcast episode, we're going to be breaking down and rank the top 10 movies of 2024. And this year has been a great year for movies, but it doesn't get better to 2026. I will promise you all that. I'll be alive and up till then. But anyways, 2024, great year for movies. And even though we're still in this kind of place where the strike occurred a year ago and some of the movies that were supposed to come out this year got moved to 2025 and so on. But overall, there has been enough movies for the year to justify the enjoyment of movie going. And for everyone's sake, I hope you all, for those who are watching this, hope you enjoyed your movie going sessions of what movies you have seen throughout the year. And today's episode, like I said, we'll be breaking down our top 10 movies that I have seen that I really ranked out of all of them. And there's a lot of movies I've seen throughout this year, of course. And, of course, there is one movie that I've seen as a Fathom event. I rewatched the first Dune early this year, but we're talking new movies, and that's what this episode is going to be about. So, for the love and respect, please, I appreciate the respect and keeping comments to each other in terms of ranking these top 10s and what my top 10s are, whatever they're weird or not. But you guys have to know one thing. I enjoy movie going for the sake of something that's really hype. And that's all you really need to know what my top 10 is going to be like. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and begin the top 10 rankings of 2024 starting now. All right, guys. Number 10, we're going from top 10 all the way down to number 1. So to make it things exciting, to least exciting to most exciting, we're going to be kicking off as usual from 10 to 1. So my 10th ranked movie of the year was Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. And I know this is crazy to wonder if this is a good movie or not. Okay, look. It's not the greatest movie, but this is the kind of movie, and for myself, that I can just go into this movie and turn my brains off for this kind of monster movie. And courtesy of like the improvements they brought to this movie in terms of like keeping less humans out. And I'll say this, I was really entertained with the most aspect of the monsters throughout the movie. We'll get to see Kong most of the time, even though Godzilla's appearing in this movie as much as not surprising. But even that, until they team up later and after the second act, I enjoyed a lot throughout this movie, through the visuals, through Kong, and through these monsters we get to see. And even then, the third act, of course, was a Saturday morning cartoon monster fun. And believe it or not, it was entertaining enough to say that this was really joyful enough to put in my top 10. And believe me, I say this, it's most exciting when Godzilla and Kong team up or on screen together, whether they're fighting against each other or not. It's the enjoyment of this movie. You're getting two monsters tag teaming along to fight for Earth and defend the universe. And this is exciting, to say the least. I am a MonsterVerse fan. I'm more of a Godzilla dude, if anything. And this movie right here was joyful enough. And yes, the human characters, of course, were garbage at times, as expected. The dialogue is a mess. But if you could turn your brains off, it's so enjoyable. I even enjoyed this way more than Godzilla vs. Kong back years ago. And for some reason, it had a lot of more screen time with the monsters and the titans that you get to pretty much enjoy out of that. And throughout the whole act, there's not even like a bad pacing to this film to myself. So I really enjoyed what this movie has to offer throughout the movie. So Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire was a blast, and I could not leave this out of the top 10 and had to put it there. So it's sitting at number 10 on my most ranked movies of this year. Number 9, Transformers 1. And even though it did not do good at the box office, whatever it's the Transformers fatigue, the marketing, which, let's be real, the marketing hasn't been this great. It's really a shame, unfortunately. But even that, this movie is pretty damn awesome, considering this is not a written and directed Michael Bay movie, and this is done by someone else who wrote the movie, who directed the movie, and almost questionable about this whole looks movie. I end up really enjoying this movie throughout after 30 minutes. Because the first 30 minutes, it almost got nowhere at first. But then 30 minutes after, it kicks into the story. It kicks in the dynamic relationship between Optimus and Megatron. The animation is really cool. The action was awesome. It's really amazing, of course. The voice acting was really top notch than I thought. So it really impressed me with Chris Hemsworth and Brian Tyree Henry. And those two were questionable at the start of this when the marketing happened. But then throughout the movie, you'll get to see their voices elevate and their performance becoming better. So overall, this is a kind of Transformers movie we should have had in like years. Even in live action, of course. But yet, we should have had this animated completely the way it is. And that's a shame considering the Transformers franchise has been putting down to sleep and now rest a shame to this franchise ever since Michael Bay ruined these movies. And now, even with this box office movie being a disappointment, it's like you don't want to touch Transformers ever again until it comes back at some point. You might as well not touch it in the next 10 years. Even if it deserves a sequel, of course, which it does have a great follow-up towards the end of the movie. But even that, this is the best Transformers we really had, and it really deserves to be a hit. But unfortunately, it is what it is. Transformers is a dead franchise now to the point where it's just ruined now. And not marketing is right does hurt this movie a lot more than ever. So that's really unfortunate. But even that, it doesn't stop me from enjoying the movie, and I think it could have deserved it. But otherwise, Transformers 1 really fits to my number 9 most ranked movie of this year. Number 8 is going to be Twisters. And believe it or not, I don't tend to enjoy legacy sequels throughout the year. And in general, Top Gun Maverick is one of the greatest legacy sequels ever made. And I always will bring this up. It's my favorite legacy sequel and one of my favorite movies of all time. So Twisters is a standalone sequel to Twister from 1997. 1995, I think. But anyways, either way, I mean, Twisters was really brilliant as like an amazing edge of your seat movie that I really got to enjoy through this movie. The cast in this movie were great. Glenn Powell, Daisy Edgar Jones, particularly these two, they really took chemistry in this movie. But Glenn Powell, of course, is a butts in the seats guy. And I'm a Glenn Powell dude ever since Top Gun Maverick, which is why I brought the movie, of course. And everywhere Glenn Powell goes, he steals the show. He steals the movie. He brilliantly brings the heat to this movie. And he's almost becoming like Tom Cruise in a sense of way of a stardom. And I'm sure that his stardom is getting younger attention from younger audiences. And of course, possibly the adults that were able to see a few of his movies like Maverick and his Netflix movie Hitman, which really unfortunate should have been in theaters. But Twisters, though, was brilliantly well enjoyable. And also the disaster sequences were great. I had a great time with this movie, and nothing really kind of clicked me away. Though there was a little something that could have made it more further down my top 10, and it's already been out, but I'll say this. Glenn Powell's character and Daisy Edgar Jones' character just didn't kiss towards the end, and that's the only thing I was so pissed at. So I was like, damn it. So I couldn't really put this closer to my down to top 5, but it's all right though. Otherwise, the movie's really enjoyable. It's nothing to cringe about, and the stars and the chemistry were great in this movie. And overall, I really had a good time with Twisters, considering that this is a legacy sequel that, again, isn't going to be perfect as Top Gun in general, but this is actually a well done legacy sequel that brings the IP about in futures to come. Number 7, Deadpool and Wolverine, and I wasn't been excited with superheroes movies this year. We got a ton of shitty ones this year. I mean, Madam Web, Kraven the Hunter. I mean, Venom 3 was at least watchable, but it's not perfect, of course. But Deadpool and Wolverine, it did promise a lot of good things that this movie bring the hype to. And it did. And it's not as perfect, I will say, but this is one of those Deadpool movies with these consistent movies that are getting topper and better and yet crazy. And considering Disney finally allows an R-rated territory in their own territory with Marvel being bought, this is the right direction for Deadpool going in the MCU into Disney now. And that's great. Otherwise, this movie was a blast, brilliant, and the reaction to this movie, of course, I still won't spoil it yet, but I don't want to just talk about it. But a lot of the cameos in this stuff in this movie was amazing. Really got to people psyched, cheering, screaming, and even for me, I was so pumped to see whoever I just saw, and I really had a blast with the movie. The R-rated sequences in this movie was even top-notch, gorier, and it was brilliant. The third act, of course, was so awesome. And Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, of course, who came back to play this character, they were killing the chemistry as dynamic brothers in this movie. And goes to show that's the X-Men, supposedly, the way how it's set it up to be back then. But those are the dynamic duo brothers. You can ever see them come back, I'm sure, and I'm hoping that's the case. But Deadpool Wolverine was a blast of Marvel for only Marvel this year, and I actually got to enjoy it than I ever would. And this ends up being my top 10, being my number 7 most ranked movie of the year. Followed by number 6, A Complete Unknown. This is my latest movie that I just saw few days ago as of this video recording, and the review for it is up now if you guys want to check it out. But I had a great time with that movie, and yet again, I'm not a biopic guy who isn't pulled in these kind of situations of what can intrigue me into this. Even though I don't know Bob Dylan until James Mangold, who I'm a huge fan of, Timothy Chalamet gained the lead role, and that's what really pulled me into watching this movie. And I really had a good time with this movie. It was electrifying, amazing to see on the big screen with Bob Dylan. Timothy Chalamet completely owned this movie. Deserves an Oscar, which I will be supporting that. The supporting cast, Monica Bavario, Elle Fanning, were great to support to this movie. The soundtrack, the musical numbers were great, and it kept my eyes entertaining throughout this movie. And, Chalamet even elevated his talent all the way with the singing, which really, really made me smile and made me engage to it. And this is kind of rare, like I said, about biopic movies. They don't tend to, make me engage a lot. The only last biopic I saw was Oppenheimer last year, and that's in my top 3. That was really engaging. So something engaging like that is the only thing that will pull me in. James Mangold did a great job with this movie. The style he's taken in, the direction of storytelling with Bob Dylan and Chalamet and the cast, top-notch credibility to them, especially Chalamet, who I'm damn sure he's going to get that Oscar, and I'm hoping so. Those good qualities were enough to just justify my top 10 movies, sitting at number 6 of the year. And guys, we're in the top 5 territory. So here we go. My number 5th movie of the year, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. I'm a huge Anya Taylor-Joy fan. I adore her all the way. She's awesome in this movie. Even I never seen the Mad Max movies, and this is a prequel. So that's currently I can see this movie without watching the Fury Road, but I did watch Fury Road afterwards the day I got home from the movies from that movie. But back to Furiosa, it is a brilliant movie, brilliant prequel. George Miller is George Miller, brings it all the way. The story is amazing in that sense of the character. Chris Hemsworth was great as the villain. The action was intense. Could have been more bloodier otherwise, but it was really great otherwise. And I have no words, but I was really on the edge of my seat to watching this movie. It pulled me in, and this is a great prequel, I have to say. It really fits in my top 10. And it's too bad it didn't do good at the box office, unfortunately. It had reasons. But really enough to say that even whatever it's a flop or not, it's still a good movie at the end of the day, and it could have deserved a lot more money than ever. And unfortunately, it didn't live up to what people would expect to see it explode. But Furiosa, Mad Max Saga, or Furiosa for short, actually ended up being my enjoyable movies of top 5, sitting at number 5 of the year. Number 4, Wicked. When I literally said this a few episodes ago on my latest review, it defied gravity. I literally mean it. It defied gravity, bringing this adaptational Broadway to life on the big screen. And you can almost transition to like you're watching it Broadway. Top notch, the performances were great with Ariana Grande, Cynthia Rovo. The musical numbers were outstanding. Dancing Through Life is my favorite track of the movie. Made me smile. Jonathan Bailey stole that one. And guys, it had to be so enjoyable to say that this really surprised me. fits in my top 10, top 5, and I'm excited for the sequel, which will be next year, and it's going to be performing at a higher depth level than the first movie could ever do. And I'm sure it's going to be $1 billion. Whatever it's not the case, we could see it surge. People that remember the first one will see the second one next year, and it's going to be storming because Wicked is the Wizard of Oz IP we truly need it in such a long time. And Wicked, particularly, great, great adaptation. And still crazy, it's a 2-part adaptation, but it makes sense to keep the movie short as possible to make it too long. Even though it is a long movie, but I had no issues. They were just really enjoyable with this musical stuff. And again, I'm not truly a musical guy to something that pulls me in. I mean, Joker, Folie à Deux, just to bring this up, was almost a hype, but then didn't really work out. But Wicked, in this case, based on the Broadway musical sensational adaptation, it makes a lot of sense, and the musical numbers were great as possible. So Wicked ends up being my top 5, sitting at number 4 of the year, and I will never forget to experience how amazing it was. Number 3, we're at top 3, guys. These are going to be the picks that I hope will resonate the reasons why I'm the hypest moviegoer around, but let's go to top 3 real quick. Number 3, Alien Romulus. I'm so glad they did not put this in streaming, and thank God Bob Chapek gets his ass the boot out of the CEO spot of Disney, and Bob Iger literally allowed this movie to go in theaters, switching this. It is the greatest decision because they made a good amount of money. It's sitting at $350 million worldwide, making over $100 million domestic. And that's the great part of it. You put these IPs like that to theaters, and you get these PLFs. It's enjoyable. I had to see this movie the following week after release. But anyways, little too late or not, I had an amazing time, and I was really on the edge of my seat with this movie. It was amazing, breathtaking. It made me enjoy this. The jump scares were there. It's also a movie prequel that takes place between the first and the second Alien movie. And man, they had a good direction with this movie. And the characters were even great in this movie. Kaylee Spaney, David Johnson, they both were great in this movie. Isabel Marcet, who also, I forgot to mention, pulled off an amazing scream. Really made me enjoy that. And there was a lot of good moments in this movie that really pulled me on the edge of my seat. And that's the kind of movie like Alien. And we're getting a new Predator movie in theaters next year. Thank God, in theaters. And I'm so excited to see a Predator franchise back on the big screen. But to the point of Alien, the Alien franchise coming back, it's exciting. And it's been a pleasure watching this movie and getting excited about it. This ends up being my top 3 movies of the year that I really soaked my breath into and really enjoyed it even after a week release. That's something to know about. Number 2, and this may be a little controversial to people's surprise, Sonic the Hedgehog 3. I've been loving these Sonic movies. They have Shadow in this installment. My expectations were so high for this movie to see what they do. And if you guys know Jeff Fowler, who's the director of this franchise, he keeps nailing it. Him and his writing team keeps coming back. They bring improvements. They bring the universe of Sonic from the world of the franchise to this movie. Shadow was handled great. Keanu Reeves stormed this performance. Jim Carrey coming back, playing not 1 but 2 characters, making an amazing script for his return, and it was damn worth it. A lot of good Easter eggs. If you're basically a Sonic fan, you would understand why I put this in my top 2 and second. But I was smiling. I was blessed to see what they do with this movie. It was enjoyable. It was action-packed, more to the top, and it's really awesome. The third act got me geeking. Easter eggs all over. The action, the post-credit scene, man, does it get exciting for this franchise. And it's pulling me in to say that this is the experience of Spider-Man No Way Home. Basically, if you're a fan of this franchise like this, it got everybody geeking out. And that's what it does. If it's supposed to do that, This movie does the job, and even for me, I was excited to see what's next. Will not say anything yet for people that haven't seen the movie, but go see it if you haven't had a chance. The movies keep getting better, and I cannot wait to see what this franchise holds. The fourth one is even coming out 2027. It's going to be a long time, but I'm damn sure it's going to be worth the wait to see what happens. But Sonic the Hedgehog 3, one of the most thrilling experience as a fan to see of the year, and this fits in my second movie of the year. Quickly, before going to the number one movie of the year, I got some honorable mentions to talk about. Want to bring up a few things on the movies I put in my honorable mentions. I put Gladiator 2. I really enjoyed, and it had a lot of more entertaining value to this. But in terms of iconic moments, it doesn't got any huge iconic stuff as the first Gladiator. I mean, Ridley Scott is one of those directors who doesn't have the sauce anymore to what the first his original movies were. And look, that's okay. There's a lot of craziness that he pulled in this movie that were completely inaccurate were really entertaining, and it was a lot more fun to watch. The new cast on screen were even great. Denzel Washington even stole the movie. Pedro Pascal really surprised me. No, Paul Mescal, my bad. Paul Mescal surprised me. Pedro Pascal was awesome. Joseph Quinn, Fred Hinzinger were also were both amazing, and yeah, a lot of things to this movie. Really, it's not iconic, but I really enjoyed this. Couldn't fit in my top 10, but the honorable mentions is good enough. Inside Out 2, a good sequel that brings the form of Pixar, and it was even a giant hit of the year. It's sitting to be number one movie of the year, highest grossing wise, sitting at $1.7 billion. It is officially the highest grossing movie of the year. Excuse me. Highest grossing animated movie of all time and the highest grossing movie of the year. And there's no shame to saying that this one isn't the best as the first. It still brings the same amount of value as the first one. It's a coming age movie that relates to emotions as the person progressively gets older with Riley. So that's another great thing. I enjoyed seeing where this movie goes. So Inside Out 2 is my honorable mentions. My third, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Now, it's not perfect of a movie, I will say, but it's a great movie, a good movie to set off where it leads off with Caesar's legacy, going to 1,000 generations years later, and we're obviously getting a new trilogy out of this for sure, and it was a hit, of course, so you can expect another Planet of the Apes franchise to be coming very, not very soon, but quite some time in the years, and this movie was really enjoyable. Even the first act at first gets a little slow at first. It kicks in, and the characters even get very dynamic, of course. Noah's a great protagonist who isn't going to be as Caesar, but he's going to be the next coming Caesar. We shall see. And honestly, Wes Ball did an amazing job with the movie, and I hope he comes back with the trilogy, with the second and third movie, and seeing where this goes, because I really enjoyed this movie a lot. Couldn't fit in my top 10, but really in my honorable mentions. My most favorite number one movie of the year has not changed, and it'll always stay there. Dune Part 2. If you guys listen to my review, it is like if you guys listened to my review many months ago, or if not, then I will say it was the most exhilarating experience of a movie in terms of sci-fi, and completely blow out of the water with this first Dune that really we're going to kick it hard to the second. And my expectations was supposed to be that it's the second one really is better than the first. And in this case, it's the best second part than the first part. Denis Villeneuve knocked it out of the park with this movie. With the cast, Austin Butler and the addition, Florence Pugh, they were all amazing, well-depth. The characters were great. The visuals, the action was even more action-packed. And everything was riveting from start to finish, didn't drag, and clearly has more love and efficient. Like, even it was supposed to come out last year, and the strike hurt this release. Really unfortunate. But even that, I would say this would be my number one movie if I really stupendly enjoyed it, and it did. And I really enjoyed it way more. Came around my birthday weekend in the beginning of the year, and I saw it twice. I saw this movie twice in IMAX. The first ring was in IMAX. Great experience. And I will only watch certain movies like Dune if it's how it's exciting. The movie's even shot. It's completely shot, digitalized or something, and 100% IMAX formatted. And the experience was surreal and amazing. And I haven't seen an actual IMAX since Top Gun Maverick. But Dune will be one of those movies that's officially safe to say with this type of feel to going to the movies and why we go to the movies for a reason. Dune Part 2 is right up to my favorite movies of all time next to Top Gun Maverick. And it was enjoyable start to finish. Everything was incredible. It's going to get a lot of Oscar noms, even though, unfortunately, some of the part that this movie could have a hard time because, in terms of Oscar nominees, it's because it came out earlier in the year, which is really unfortunate. There were a lot of good movies throughout the year after that. But I'm hoping it gets into obvious ones like Best Visuals, Best Director, Best Picture. I mean, I can't say Best Picture is safe for that now, considering there's like other bigger, better movies. But Dune Part 2 really deserves some of the sweep it gets. And performance-wise, I can't say which will get easier, but it's still a great movie. I loved Dune. I cannot wait for Dune Messiah in 2026. Denis Villeneuve is coming back to do that one. It's exciting. It's not going to be action-packed, that I'm damn sure, but it's going to really elevate the trilogy of Dune, which I know the two Dune movies were part of one consistent adaptation of a book. But if anything, it could have been a trilogy, but it makes a lot of sense. The first, like the whole entire book of Dune is basically adapted to two parts. And they just got better with each style and each storytelling. Like Dune Part 2, one of those movies you had to go see on the big screen, and I'm damn sure hope everyone went to see this, especially in these PLFs, IMAX, Dolby. The edge of your seat is going to be right there as you watch it, and it's going to give you what you expect to see where Part 1 leaves off and how much of a gut puncher it does with the sequel, and it does. Can't say enough, can't say anything else, but it's never changed. Dune Part 2 is my number one movie of the year, considering that it should have been out last year, but I'm glad this came out this year. I'm glad it came out on my birthday, and I'm so glad it's out to say that this is one of the biggest movie experiences I enjoyed throughout the years of moviegoing. But guys, that is my top 10 movies of the year of 2024. It's been great for movies, and I had a lot of fun with most of them than I ever thought I would. And considering that the strike would be still a little issue with some of the movies that were supposed to come out this year, but instead pushed to next year. But at the end of the day, it's all right because there were enough movies for me to be entertained as a moviegoer. And I hope everyone who's watching this video or listening to podcasts can agree with this. And honestly, I'm excited for 2026. That's going to be in a couple years. But 2025 is shaping to be another great year for movie going. And it's exciting because there is going to be a ton of content, movies all over this podcast. And I can't wait to cover everything on this show. So guys, that is my top 10 movies of the year. If you guys have any top 10s that you want to share, of course, go to the YouTube channel. And if you're actually watching this on the YouTube video, comment down below of what are your top 10, top 5, 3 movies, top 15 if you have to. And if you're obviously listening to the podcast, you're not getting the whole story, obviously. You'll get to see my face and this amazing mic that you'll get to see me every time I do these kind of videos. So go ahead to the YouTube channel, which is in the show notes of description of the podcast episode. My YouTube channel is there. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you enjoyed this video, if you're new to this channel, subscribe, hit the like and comment, and follow my social media platforms, Twitter, X, and TikTok. They'll both be in the show notes. and my Letterboxd in the description as well for more movie depth in review purposes for you guys to follow for those that have Letterboxd. And guys, of course, where are my manners? Happy New Year to all the people watching this video, listening to the podcast. We all hope we can have a great year for 2025 and a blessing year, of course. 2025 is going to be an amazing year for movies, and I'm excited to get into the spirit of this, and it's going to be one moment of a lifetime until we get to 2026, which is, again, the biggest movies of that year, and it's going to be even wild. So, guys, until then, this is Danny Escamilaggi signing off of I Screen, You Scream, number 4 movies. And we'll be heading to season 4 of this show in 2025 and the next episode. Until then, stay screaming for the movies, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Happy New Year, and peace.